Hey everyone, David here over at Trek Builder. Just following up with my next installment of the Voyager build that I've been doing. I think this is probably video Voyager build number 4. I'm going to call it as number 4, call it out as 4. I went back and looked at some of my first 2 videos that I introduced when I started doing Voyager about a year ago, and I think total I think I did like 3 videos. So anyway, this is video 4. So I made a little bit of progress, not quite as far as I was hoping to get at this point, but just with work and everything, it's tough to find time. I'm sure all you modelers know, you start building these and the time flies. I mean, you could be working on the smallest area of the ship or whatever, and you're already an hour and a half, 2 hours into it. So unfortunately, with only working on this later at night, I need to get some sleep once in a while too. So it's get done what you can get done. So I thought I'd just do a quick video on where I'm at with the lighting, and that's pretty much where I'm at. I just been doing lighting. I came across a couple things that made me have to change a few things as far as the value of resistors that I was planning on using. Unfortunately, these, I think I got one here. This is how I'm powering my ship, of course, which is pretty standard. It's just a wall adapter, your power adapter, and the power adapter I'm using is a 9-volt output, 9-volt DC power adapter. And I initially I started hooking up my strip lighting for my windows, and I started putting in some LEDs, and everything was working fine until I was testing out one of my red nav lights, and not in the ship, but before I installed it, and for some reason it burnt out, and which isn't uncommon with LEDs. You might get a bad one here or there, but this one was working fine for a while, and then it just burnt out, and I thought, well, did I have a bad connection? And so I started playing around, and sure enough, I put in a different LED and it worked. But then when it burnt out, I started thinking, well, did I lose power? And so then, which I probably should have done this when I first started using this thing, is I took my meter to it just to see if I had power, and my power, I was getting 12 volts out, which kind of surprised me because this thing says 9-volt DC output, which kind of surprises me, but whatever. And then so I had a couple of these, and I tried a different one, and that one also has 12 volts coming out. So I don't think this particular manufacturer was very accurate as far as what the output voltage is, because it's not 9 volts. So, which is fine, because everything I've got, can operate off of 12 volts. It's just a matter of what value resistor you use on your LEDs. So what I ended up doing is I ended up going with a higher resistor value, of course. When I first started doing this, I was using around 470 ohms. The LEDs I bought for my nav lights and my clear super bright LEDs, not the strip lighting, but just your standard LEDs, the value that it called out for was 300 ohms, which actually those were running a little warm, which would make sense because 300 ohms was calculated for 9 volts. So anyway, I ended up switching out my resistors to 470. It was still running a little warm. I jumped it up to 680. They were still a little warm, and then I jumped it up to 750 ohms, and they're fine. They're a little warm, but not bad. Now you may be thinking 750 ohms is quite a lot, even for 12 volts, but it's not really. They rated, if you're to use a 12 volt system, the LEDs, the chart that they have on eBay, there was just a picture of it. For 12 volts, they recommended, I think, 510 ohms. But I'm using 750, and they work great. The funny thing is that both the red and green LEDs that I have are are identical as far as when you order them from this manufacturer, but for some reason the greens are super bright. So what I ended up doing is going, initially I was going to go with 1K just for the strobes. And the greens were, okay, I'm getting my story mixed up here. The green LEDs, the reds are fine at 750 ohms, but with my greens, they were really bright. So I kept bumping up, you know, trying different resistors until finally I got one that they ended up, you know, kind of smoothing out the green almost to the same brightness as my reds. I ended up having to go with a 5K resistor or a 5.1K resistor for my green nav lights, and that got it pretty close to my red, because I didn't want to have one red and then my greens super bright, which would look kind of funny. So anyway, with 12 volts on most of my, like my red nav lights, if I'm just using a clear regular LED, all those I'm going to run at 750 ohms. My beacons, those I'm running at 750 ohms. The only ones that I had to really have a high resistor was my green LED, and that I'm running at 5K. So enough of that to bore you to death on that. But anyway, so that was my dilemma, is I ended up finding out that my power supply was running 12 volts. And I'm glad I caught it, because if I didn't and I just assumed it was 9 volts and I kept going, you know, there's a good chance I could have glued this whole model up and then had LEDs burn out on me within a month or two. Who knows? But anyway, I got that resolved, and my next step now is I'm going to be taping together the saucer, because I got all the LEDs done on the saucer section. I've got the LEDs completed on the aft section, the shuttle bay section, and I'm going to kind of tape them together and run them and leave them run for several hours and just, you know, do a burn-in on them. So let me throw my camera around here. Enough of looking at me, and we will show you where I am at on this bad boy. I think I'm in focus there. Might need to turn on a light or two here. I'm not really sure what we're doing as far as lighting, so bear with me here. I think that should be good enough. So here's where I'm at, and you know, some of this might already be familiar from my last video, but you know, I got all of the LEDs done. In fact, I'm just gonna swing it up a little higher here. So I got all the LEDs on here, which you've, I think, already have seen. And initially, so what I was going to end up doing with this was, I have 2 holes I drilled, and I ended up deciding, because all the wires are going to come out the bottom half here and go down into the hull, which, as you can see, I have not even started lighting this section yet. But what I plan on doing, you know, what I am going to do is run all my wires into here. And originally what I was going to do, and I'll get to this in a minute, but I just wanted to show you that I made 2 holes here. This was going to be all the wires going out, and I had a hole for all the wires coming in. I was originally going to mount my flasher board in here, but I'm not now. And so let me just show you. Here's the top section, all wired up. If I flip it around, you can see there's my nav lights. There's my beacon there, and I got another beacon sitting right there. So yeah, these are finished. And now what I've got for the, I think I may have mentioned this, I had purchased, here's the flasher board that I believe this came from Voodoo, no, Tenna Controls. So here's my flasher board that I got from Tenna Controls. Just a nav and strobe light board. And also here is a gang board that I had purchased from Voodoo FX. So what I'm going to do is, if you look at this, which, you know, I don't like how I got this, so I'm going to take this off the tripod. This makes it a little difficult. So if you look here, the way I decided to do this is I'm going to go ahead with this gang board. I decided, instead of mounting it and trying to run all of my wires, all these wires into this, I thought it would offer a little bit more flexibility if I just pre-wired all my outputs ahead of time, and that way I have the flexibility of just wiring it up and doing whatever once I get it mounted. So this way, you know, it gives me a little bit of leeway, or, you know, a little flexibility, so I can just solder directly to these instead of going to here. And being that you know, with most of my wiring here I'm using magnet wire, it's a lot easier if I just solder the magnet wire to this stuff instead of trying to go through these larger holes here on the gang board. Same applies with my flasher board. I'm going to do, you know, just have my one set coming off my flasher board for the flash, or for the strobes, and just wire it directly to, wire directly to just those two wires. And then just do all my beacons right to those two wires and be done with it. One other thing is that I've been thinking about is the location of where I want to mount these boards. And I decided, you know, I know a lot of people, and I think it's pretty much the standard here, to mount these inside either the saucer or mount it somewhere inside the primary hull. And I figured, why do that? I mean, not that it wouldn't be a bad idea, but the more I think about this is, you know, you got this board, which now that I put all these wires on, I mean, look for yourself. I mean, if I mount it way down in here, just as a representation, if I, you know, whether I mount it up here somewhere or I mount it back here somewhere, you know, there's not a whole lot of room. Plus, I don't want to block all these all these windows. Granted, it's going to be, you know, I'm going to fill in these windows, and I'm not going to use crystal clear. I've decided I'm going to use canopy glue, which might diffuse it enough, possibly, where really you don't see all the wires floating around in here. But I just thought about it, and instead of going that route, why not just have all my wires, you know, once I get all this done, okay, so we take this, I had all these wires here, why don't I just run all these wires straight down the display, the shaft, and then into the base? So I'm going to do that, and I just decided, well, heck, you know, it's just a matter of going this far down to the base, so I'll just run all my wires down through the base and attach these into the stand. So I figured, what's the sense of cluttering up my model with wires and circuit boards when I can do that all inside the base or underneath the base? Or because I don't know if I'm going to use the kit base for this build. I might either build one, or I can't remember the guy who Boyd over at TrekWorks used, but he just built that I think it was the Klingon cruiser. I can't remember. No, it wasn't the Klingon cruiser. It was the one before that. I'm drawing a blank. Anyway, it was a beautiful stand. He had somebody built for him, and I'd have to go back and watch one of his videos to figure out who it was, but it was awesome. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't cheap, but I'm thinking about going that way when it comes to doing the base and the electronics. So I figured, you know, there's no sense for me to put all this in the model, put it in the base, run all the wires down to the base, and you're done. So I think that's what I'm going to do. So my next step here is I'm at the point now where I can go ahead and attach all these wires temporarily. I'm just going to solder them because I've got enough, and you know, and if I need more wire I can always splice and make it longer. But I think what I'm going to do now is I'm ready to test all this, and here is the here's the aft section that I just finished yesterday. So I got all that wired in. I got all my nav lights. Here is my beacon. Here's the other beacon up here. Now I did have to make them offset because how limited the space is in here. There was no way in the world I could have matched both top and bottom evenly without them hitting, because these LEDs aren't pushed all the way through. I just have them up. It's just a little stubble on all of my nav lights. So if you look on the inside, you know, they do kind of stick up a little bit. So with very little bit of room, it wouldn't have worked if I made them in the exact same location. So this one, I made the decision to mount it here, right in the center, and then put my red. Those turned out really good, and those turned out really good. And the way that I did my window light, wrong way. Way that I did the window light is I took an LED, and I'm hoping that my strobe light is not going to be too much in the way. Hopefully that there's enough clearance underneath or above it where the light will just shoot over it. But what I did is I just sanded down completely around one of my my super bright LEDs that I use for my strobes. And what I did is I sanded it down. I used some CA and I glued it directly right against the wall here of it. And I just took my Mr. Surfacer and I light blocked all the way around except for the very tip. So shooting out has the light, and then I just light blocked it so it wouldn't, you know, shoot light all the way back here. Well, unfortunately this light is so bright that it still fills up light. And it did turn out really good as far as it, you know, lighting up here. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm just going to snap this together and pretty much take this. I'm going to tape this all closed, and then I'm going to wire it up to my boards here and leave it run for a few hours. So that's where I'm at now. I'm going to pause this video, and then once I get that far I will come back and show you what it looks like all lit up so far. Also, another thing that I had also finished was my impulse engines, the intakes and the impulse engines themselves are nice and bright red. I'll show you that here in a little bit, and we'll come back with another section on this video. So thanks much, hold on, we'll be back shortly. Hey everyone, I'm back here. Alright, so I got Voyager all, or the saucer section anyway, all wired up, and I got my shuttle bay or aft area here wired up for testing, and I got the saucer section all taped together here, and also wired up to have the lights all tested. So why don't I go ahead and plug her in, and we can see how she all looks all lit. I got my little power cable here. I'll go ahead and plug this in, and voila, she is working. Obviously you can't really see it, so I'll shut down some of the lights here. And naturally the camera will probably overexpose some of the lights, but I'll go ahead and take the camera off here and get a closer view of this. She's looking pretty darn nice if you ask me. We got the shuttle bay area. You have the windows all lit inside. What I plan on doing is I'm going to diffuse those windows, same as all these bigger windows like up here and here. I think what I'm going to use, I got this like really clear, it's clear like plastic sheets, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray it with that matte finish that I used when I did my nacelle, and I'll super glue that or CA that on the back of here, and that should diffuse that. Because as it is now, you can see all the wiring, or not really the wiring, but you can see all the LEDs inside. But for the little bit of LED tape that I used, I mean, that thing really lit up this whole entire area, and it really turned out looking pretty good. This camera sure does not like the light up close like that. So, and you look at the underside. That really turned out nice. Now again, if I never used the 5K resistor on those greens, that would really make it too bright. But that made it turn out just even and perfect, and that's really looking nice. I'm happy with the results on that. It really turned out nice. So that's how that turned out. Yeah, I like that. I like those strobes. Those strobes really look cool. That board from Tenna Controls really is a slick little circuit board for 35 bucks. So anyway, that's my progress so far. Yeah, and you can see here with that gang board, what a mess. So, you know, even better so, I think that if I put both of those boards down in the base, that's going to give me a lot of room to play around with. So that really turned out cool. Why don't I also show you, I think I mentioned briefly that I also got the pylons wired up. That's not where the wires ultimately are going to come out. I'm going to drill out a section here, or cut out a little section in the center here, which will allow me to run all my wires for this and my nacelles through there as well. So I think if you look at Steve Neal's build over at SNG, Steve Neal's garage, he hogged out this area right here and ran all of his wires through there. And then for the pin that goes through here to turn the pylon, he just shortened the pin. Actually, he just put it's a straight through pin, but he just cut off a section of the pin and then just, you know, pushed the pin to one side and pushed the other to the other side and left the inside hollow, which still enables you to turn it and everything. So yeah, that's really cool. And if you want to see here, why don't I set this down for 1 second, and what I'll do is I'll go ahead, and being that I already have this one wired up, why don't I just hook up power quickly here to the pylon, and then you can see what that looks like with power on this, and it's awesome. I'm really happy with the way that turned out. This might take me a second, so bear with me here. The wires are getting a little cramped up in here, but hey, whatever works. Alright, so let me go ahead and plug this back in, providing I got the right polarity on this bad boy. Ooh, shoot, and I don't. What's going on here? I've got a connection somewhere. Okay. That should be working. Oh, I think I might know what the problem is. No. Red is positive. Alright, I am having a problem here. And I don't know why. Might help. Bear with me here. Forgot the LED tape that I bought some red LED tape for my pylons and my nacelles. However, the LED tape I bought, they printed the polarity wrong on the tape. So I got to do this backwards. Forgot about that. Alright, so now we should have success. Nope. Shoot. Anyway, well, this thing normally is working. I don't know why it's not working now. So anyway, I'll have to play with this and figure out what's going on. It was working. Oh, for Pete's sakes. One thing you definitely need is a lot of patience when working with this stuff. Oh, and no, it should be working. Don't know why it's not. Anyway, so outside of that, everything else is working but this, and it was at one point. Don't know why it's not working now. Oh, well, I must have had a bad connection. Okay. Hold on a second here. Because you really got to see this. This really does look cool. I think I might have had a bad connection on my ground. Alright, now that we've wasted enough time on that, this is how the pylon looks. And if you look, it really turned out cool. It's really bright. Here we go. So yeah, you got the intake all lit up, and then that really turned out nice. That effect looks cool. And all I did really is I just threw in, ooh, that's bright. Just got some red LED tape in here going across. Just put that on. That really turned out nice. So anyway, so that's that, and so that's where I'm at so far. Anyway, hope you like it, and I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to leave this run for a while and leave the LEDs burn in, and hopefully none of them go out, because we'd have a lot of problems if that happened. So anyway, that is my Voyager build number 4, and I'm happy so far. The lights turned out, and still got a long ways to go, but it's progress, and that's what matters. So hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll talk to you soon on the next Voyager build. Take care, and have a fun time building models. Bye now.